did that scream or yell. And just like, that's not a bear. And it must be like 10 or 15 minutes. I'm just like freaking out. Just like time froze. I'm just sitting there watching him. I'm just like, holy crap.
Welcome back to the Cryptic Creatures Podcast. I'm Brian, and with me, as always, is my co-host Todd. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, Brian, how you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm excited. We got big plans, big plans coming up.
We do. We are going to be attending and be a vendor at the Midwest Annual Paranormal Festival.
That's right, in Iowa.
And that is August 20th through the 22nd.
That's right. I hope everybody can make it out there and hang out with us and
absolutely
let us meet you and just have fun.
Right. What we're looking at doing is setting up a live broadcast with our podcast going on there in the booth and selling some merchandise as well. We're going to have hats and shirts and mugs and all that kind of stuff with our logos and whatnot and different Bigfoot logos. And we just encourage people to stop by, sit down, do a little talking. We can do some recording.
Talk with us and
hang out. It's going to be a good time, man. I'm excited about it for sure.
Yeah, I am too. This will be our first show.
Our first show. And we're going to attend as many as we possibly can in the future. And
we're going to try. Yep, we're going to try and hopefully get out there and meet everybody and just have fun.
Hang out and have a good time. That's what it's about. So once again, the Midwest Annual Paranormal Festival, August 20th through 22nd, guys, in Iowa. If you can make it, please come on out. It's Marshalltown. Marshalltown, Iowa is the location of that, by the way. It's kind of outside of Des Moines a little bit. Have you ever been to Iowa before, Brian?
I have. Des Moines. Yeah.
I've never been, I don't think.
I was younger, but yeah, I went there.
I wonder if they're seeing some cryptid creatures there in Iowa somewhere, along with this paranormal thing.
Well, maybe.
It kind of includes all that stuff, right?
Yeah, it pretty much encompasses everything.
Right on. Anyway,
probably a lot of UFO sightings and stuff out there in Iowa.
Could be. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's quit yammering and bring our guest Nathan on. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited.
Nathan was working in Oklahoma as a pipe welder and had some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
So,
man, this is going to be fun to hear.
It will. So let's bring him on. You ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Here we go. Nathan, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me out.
No problem. We appreciate it, man. So, Nathan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? We'll get into your encounter here in a little bit, but where are you from? What's your history there?
I'm from Amarillo, Texas. It's just where I was born. I spent a lot of time down in East Texas. That's where my grandparents primarily lived. And then whenever I was about 10 or 12, I had to move down to Houston for medical issues. And then I became a welder. I started the pipeline. That's about it.
Okay.
Welder.
So what was going on when you had your encounter? What were you doing? Where were you at? What was the situation that time of?
So I was north or east of Tulsa, probably about an hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
It was called, there's no really towns close by to where it was.
Mm-hmm. What was the name of the town? Do you remember? You said you're northeast of Tulsa?
Yeah.
I'm looking on a map to see kind of where you might think you might have been.
It says Sabine County.
County. Okay.
There's the Neosho River that was like right by where I had been working.
Okay.
But the area around there is huge.
Gotcha. Okay. So what were you doing that day? What was going on?
So I was in west of Tulsa earlier on that day, and then I had gotten a call from somebody from the union that I work for, asking me to basically go down and help these guys because a group of these guys they just left up in smoke. They just would not call, would not answer, no show, didn't even start on anything. They were just supposed to be there and just to get a lay of what they're needing to do, and they never showed. So I got called down there. Normally it'd be one or two more people, but I got the short hand of the stick. So now with the area that there is a national park right up north of it. It's called the Spavina Hill State Game Refuge. And then there's something called a Blue Hole Park.
Okay.
And there's all sorts of lakes, rivers, stuff like that, ponds. Right around that area that I was working in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting because most times when people have encounters, there's always some kind of reservoir or, wooded area like that close by.
Park. Mm-hmm.
But leading up to the encounter, I know that the first day that I got there, I wasn't really feeling right. Something was always wrong. I never really just got a hang of it. I was always constantly looking over my shoulders, just feeling like something was watching me. Really.
Nathan, can you give us an outlay of the scenery that you were looking at? What was around you? Like what kind of was it wooded or?
It was kind of densely wooded. So right next to where I was welding, there's a big dip down with trees and forest, and then there's some sort of like retention pond. And then to the left of me, or the left of the site, there was a couple buildings. There's something about Siemens Energy or something, but there wasn't many buildings out there, many people out there. Like, I think whenever I would be going to work, I'd only see probably about 4 to 5 people going down the road. But as I'm looking at it, for the most part, it's good. It's forest with a couple valleys and dips.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the first day that all happened, I went to bed, which I had been sleeping in a camper, and I just put the camper down, like right off to the road. There's a little rest stop area where you could just stop. And
so
I don't know if it was.
You were traveling with you went to this spot. You were traveling, and you were like camping out at this spot while you were working. Basically, is what was going on.
Yeah, because there wasn't really any hookup spots anywhere near close. So I just figured because the spot that I stayed at was probably about 5 to 10 miles away, just so it'd be closer to get to the site. And I remember later on that night, I remember hearing my dog growl, because my dog, for the most part, she would be in the truck with me while I was at work. And I remember hearing her growl at like a couple of times during that night, and then she just quit. So I don't know if that was necessarily a Bigfoot, but she's not really scared of a lot of things. Like she'll chase after freaking pigs if I let her, if I take her off the damn leash. But
what kind of dog is she?
She's a lab pit mix.
Okay.
Wow.
But and the next day, I get there, and then I get there, and it's probably about 11, and getting this section tied up because I was installing basically sampling wells so that they could check. I don't know, it was some sort of a liquid pipe that's all I was told. So I was installing these sample pipes so that they could test whatever it was, see if there was any debris floating in it. I don't know. We had to put these floatable screens in there.
Okay.
And
gas
then
or oil?
yeah, I figured it was gas or oil, but they didn't tell me anything about it. So it gets to about 12 o'clock or something, and I start packing my things up because I don't carry my phone on me, so I just go constantly back in between the truck, just checking on things. And it had been a while before I got to the truck, and I saw that it was 12 o'clock, and I started packing everything up. And as I'm putting my tools away, I hear these steps just come, like, they were really heavy, but around that area it's like a lot of pine needles, so you can't like really like hear the definite steps. You just hear big like crashes of needles. It's kind of weird if you don't live around here, but for the most part, about every like 15 minutes, it like take like 2 or 3 steps, and I'm just sitting here, I'm packing up all my stuff. And they got to where it was probably about every 5 minutes where it was just kind of going back to my left, and then kind of just shuffle its way to my right. And I figured it was maybe deer or something. I don't know. I don't really, I'm not really a big hunter. So, I mean, I don't really go out in the woods that much. I just figured deer or something. And I think 2 days go by, and I get to the job site at about 6 a.m. because I had installed 2 of those screens. And then I start wrapping things up, and I start taking some of my tools back. And as I'm rounding up my leads, I hear this like owl. I was like, oh, that's weird. And I had my dog in the truck. And later on, whenever I looked at her in the truck, she had her head tilt all sideways, like she was trying to figure out what the hell it was. But the hoo was like really weird. It was a bit lower pitched, just slightly lower pitched than what like an owl would be, but it lasted like a little bit too long, which threw me off. I was like, what is that? Because it started off probably 100 to 200 feet away, and then it moved a little bit closer to my right. I'm like, what the hell is that? I didn't know. Just some crackhead owl in the middle of the night.
Did you think it was still an owl, or did you think it was something else?
I kind of just thought it was an owl. Growing up, I didn't really. I mean, I watched Monster Quest, all the monster movies you could possibly think of, but like, I mean, they didn't really talk about like the sounds that they made. They just talked about like the footprints or like the smells, like on Monster Quest and stuff like that. And I just
Did you catch any smells while you were?
Yeah, well, as a few days go by, I do, and then looking back on it, I kind of got mad whenever the real incident happened, and I thought that somebody was screwing with me because there's a big rock treatment plant right next to it, or like a rock sifting gravel pit, and I figured night workers coming out there smoke a cigarette or whatever the hell, and they were screwing with me. So I got to work at about 2 o'clock, and while I was welding, I just got that edgy feeling, like on that first day, like something wasn't right. I'm just constantly looking back over my shoulder. I kind of get these weird like goosebumps, chills. I don't know how to describe it. I'm just like, something's not right. And I had been working into the night, and with welding, you just got to pay full attention. With me twitching and looking over my shoulder and all of that, I ended up screwing up that section of the pipe. So I was there nearly till probably about 11 or 12. And then I'm rounding up the top of this.
Hang on, Nathan. Were you there by yourself?
Yeah, they told me that they were trying to get more guys here, but they were having some problem in Colorado or something. I don't know. It just sounded like they were kind of giving me the stick
Making
and
excuses.
Yeah.
Nathan, when did this incident happen?
I think
What year was it?
around that would have been 2019.
Okay.
Because I was 21.
Okay.
I think it was around August or September, probably in between those two.
Gotcha.
And then so I'm going back and I'm grinding on this pipe. You know, it causes a lot of noise. I mean, even working in a steel fab shop. I mean, before that, I couldn't even get over the sound. I don't like the sound of grinders. I never have. But
nobody does.
Yeah, it was about 10 o'clock, and I just got this horrible smell, and I'm sitting on top of the pipe, grinding on top of it. I just get this horrible smell, just like it. I think it was a person that was on your podcast. A couple is like, if you stayed there any longer, you were gonna throw up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like gagging, and I'm like dry heaving, and I stumble off the pipe, and I run across my truck, and I get a bottle of water, and I'm like drinking it, just trying to get the smell out, because like I know it's weird, but you can just smell it in the back of your throat. It just makes you want to gag. And I was just drinking water, and I'm pouring it all over my face because my nose was running all the time at that time. I had snot and spit all over my face.
Can you describe the smell at all?
It was like rotting corpse and like wet dog. I know I hear that one a lot, but I could definitely smell the wet dog and like boys BO locker room. Like it was just nasty. Like it was trying to get me the hell out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And like you guys I think have said how they can control it. You know, some people say they're like, oh, it just smelled like wet dog and it just smelled bad. But like for some people, I've only heard a couple encounters where they're like gagging and they're nearly throwing up all over the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had a couple of those.
It's like they're intentionally doing this to make you.
Yeah, like the
like
smell, like the light smell that people just say it just smelled like a wet dog or like something dying. I think that's just their general smell. But then whenever they're trying to really get you the hell out, that's when they whether it's glands or something.
They turn up the funk.
Yeah.
Turn up the funk. I like that. Yeah. All right. So you went back to your truck and you're pouring water on your face, and then what?
Yeah, and I'm leaning over this. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I turn off my welder because I wear a welding hood while I'm grinding, and so you can only really see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And after I threw my welding helmet and I ran into my truck and I poured the water over my face, I turned my welder off because it's a big Kubota freaking diesel. I turn it off and I go over there. I'm like, maybe something caught fire inside. I don't, because they said that they flushed the lines or the pipe 2 weeks ago and it hasn't had anything in it since. So I didn't think so. But sometimes they leave plastic bits and stuff all over, and maybe that's what I was smelling. And I go in there, and there's nothing. And my truck, from my perspective, is on my back left corner. It's probably about 50 to 80 feet back because you have to hear what you're doing and all that. And I'm on the other side of the pipe, and I'm looking underneath it, and I hear this growl, like it's just pure guttural. You know, it was just so powerful. It scared the living hell out of me. And I remember just like sitting there looking over the pipe, just like stunned. And
Could you
just like
feel it? Could you feel it in your chest?
I
When it,
I had my left side, the left side of my torso laying. I could almost like just feel like the individual like stutters of the growl off the pipe, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, what was that? And I and it keeps on going, and I'm like, I just automatically go to bear. I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's a freaking bear out here in Oklahoma, and I go to my truck and I grab my Glock out of my glove compartment, and then my shotgun out of my back of my seat in the back, and I go back to the trench, and I put the shotgun leaning up against the trick, and I put the Glock in the back of my pants, and I just start welding, just trying to get the hell out of there, because the people they'll give me crap or whatever, saying that I didn't finish my job last night. It just trickles down. But I'm sitting on it. I'm sitting on it like you're riding a horse, just straddling it, and I'm just trying to get this freaking done. And I just hear this like scream, yell, howl. It was just terrifying. The only thing that I've heard that sounds like it's with this guy that he was like foraging for mushrooms. He's looking at this mushroom. You just hear this scream like 50 feet off, and he's just like, "Oh, I gotta get out." It sounded exactly like that, and I'm sitting there, and I pull my welding hood up, just like, what the hell was that? And I'm just freaking out, and then I mean, it's just like sleep paralysis. Like, you want to move, but you just can't. I'm just sitting there like a bump on a log on top of this pipe, and I mean, anything could have gotten me. But
could you still smell the smell at that point?
I could, but it wasn't as bad. And from when I first heard it growl, it was probably about 40 feet, 40 to 50 feet, maybe even more from my front left. So it was off in the woods quite a bit, which
that's not very far away. 50 feet's pretty close.
Yeah. I mean it was enough to just like, it nearly like almost like a gunshot, it just kind of like deafens you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just like went completely quiet, which I've been around quiet woods before, not to say it was Bigfoot or anything, but just like eerily quiet, just like, I don't know what the hell was going on. I'm like, no, I remember that I had my gun in my pants, and I pulled it out, and I saw how much my hands were shaking. Like, I'm not talking like tremors, like I'm talking like 1 to 2 inch movements. I'm just like freaking out. And I just tightened my muscles, and I popped off 3 shots into the woods. And I remember hearing the trees just like shake and rumble. I remember just hearing like a freaking heavy metal concert. Something was just like shaking and like so aggressively. And then it just went dead silent after that. And I at that point, I hear those noises, I'm just like, I'm out of here. And I grab my grinder, and I'm taking all my stuff back to the truck, and I hear this thing it's just like a bulldozer, just cracking limbs, pushing over trees. You can just hear the trees like whiplash. I cut my hoses with my knife, and I got out of there.
Huh.
Yeah, I would have too. I probably would have left all that shit.
Yeah, you apparently pissed him off, Nathan.
Yeah. I know. Clearly.
Apparently he didn't like the sound of grinders either.
But that's not it, right?
No, and I go back to grab, because we use oxy-fuel cutting to cut those pipes. And I go back because the hoses I don't give two craps about. It's the head that's worth the most amount of money. Wow. So I go back, and I'm trying to fiddle with it. I hear this big boom, it sounded almost like a car accident, but just like you don't hear any of the, like the screeching. You just hear the, and I look back nearly right as it happens, and I hear the engine on the back stutter, and I look back because I have my headlights on just to see what the hell I can do, and I just see the left side of my truck just nearly 2 feet up in the air, and I just see it crash down. And I at that point I left because it's a circle jig. I took the torch off, I left the jig, and I was out of there. I remember hearing like a couple of tree cracks as I'm going over there, but not just like little twigs like you might crack for kindling, like big, like it sounded like a pistol going off. Just, I mean, I didn't go back over there and look because I was kind of done with that area. I just kind of bad juju. I didn't want to go in over there, piss anything else off than else that I didn't start before. And I guess I remember getting to my truck, and I drive away probably about a good 500 to 600 feet, enough to where I can see the main road. And I just remember like bawling my eyes out, just like this feeling of helplessness, just thinking that I could have just died just then. Like that's how scary it was. And then I just go home. My dog luckily wasn't with me, or I guarantee she would have broke a damn window trying to get out.
Oh yeah.
And then then probably about 2 or 3 days go by, might have been 2. And I mean, I'm at work at 6:00 in the morning. Normally I get there at 11, just till the diggers get done digging and doing marking. And I'm over there, and I'm just sitting on the back of my truck, just twiddling my thumbs for the most part of those 2 days. I'm just on my phone, just looking at whatever YouTube videos, and I just remember periodically just looking up, just watching the excavators, just the inner boy of me coming out. I get that feeling.
Is this the same area that you were in before?
It's probably about 300 to 400 feet further. It's pretty closer to where I was, but it's a ways away. And I just get that edgy feeling, like just kind of something's just bugging me, and I'm looking all around. I mean, my arms are standing on edge, and I'm like, what? And I'm looking all around, and from my point of view, the back of my truck is facing all the excavators, and where I see it, it's across from the pipe, or the pipe that they were digging, and I'm looking all around, and I'm like, where? At this point I'm like, where is it? I know it's somewhere, and then just for whatever reason, my eye just catches this one thing that just stands out. It's behind these 2 big pine trees, and it must be about 8 to 9 feet tall. It was light brown. That's the only reason why I didn't see it at first, because it nearly blended into the trees. But it was just that much lighter that I could just see it, and that's why I think my eye just picked it out. And I remember just watching it, and he had his leg almost kind of propped up because there's a big, almost just slight hill. It wasn't that big where you'd roll an ankle or something, but it was a pretty steep hill. And he had one leg almost back, and he had one hand on either a branch or just against a tree. And he was just sitting there watching, just turning his head periodically. I remember one time he looked in my direction. I don't know if he was looking directly at me, but it just like time froze. I'm just sitting there watching him. I'm just like, holy crap. I mean, I watched Monster Quest, and my dad's a big Bigfoot believer. We've gone to Big Thicket trying to find Sasquatch, but just like being there, I'm just just like, what? And it wasn't. It was a mount because I didn't see the breasts like you do with the patty footage, or like a couple of the videos that you see with them they're like picking up the young one, but he's more built, like more muscle tone, like almost like a world class power lifter or something. But his torso, it's like almost like it was like stretched more, so it was almost out of proportion. He had like shorter legs than what you would see like a proportion to a human, and he had like longer arms. And I remember seeing his face. So for the most part, around his mouth and a little around his eyes, but he had a really high like brow ridge, like he came out like super deep, and he had really like almost undercut cheeks, like he was like starving or whatever. And I remember just like look, and I mean, it must be like 10 or 15 minutes. I'm just like freaking out.
So would you say he was more Neanderthal?
Almost, but he was just gorilla? Like really, I'd say more gorilla-like, but he had that big brow like a gorilla, and his nose was almost flat, like almost like with like a boxer or something. Somebody, but like with that gorilla, it wasn't like quite as like how a gorilla's sunken in. Like you could see definition of it, like how it was out, but it wasn't quite as out as like mine or yours.
Okay.
And I remember I couldn't really see his eye color. I could see a little white, or from the position, which he's like maybe 100 feet away, so enough to where I can see all these features, but not see like the extra fine details.
Did he see you, Nathan? Did he know you were there?
Well, that area that I was in, so the side of the roads where I would park on, so those I think were recently cut down and trunked, because there's still kind of potholes in the road where I would say that some trees were dug up. And so I think that he thought that, or at least what I think is that he thought that they were coming in and they were taking more forest away. And that's why he came down to watch. And he's periodically just looking at the excavators, and then he's looking kind of straightforward-ish, and then he'd look in my direction, which I would say that he was looking at me, but he kind of looked almost like past me, if that makes sense.
He probably thought you didn't see him, is what I'm guessing.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of like a oh crap moment.
How long were you staring at him? How long did this last?
Like I said, like time just froze. I mean, it felt like hours. I think it might have been like 10 to 15 minutes where I was just watching him. And then he looks at the excavators one last time, and then he puts his hand down. He just stares at him for a couple of seconds, and he turns his head, and he just walks up. And I remember seeing him walk up and then just disappear, kind of. And I just snapped out. I'm like, what the hell? And I didn't stay after like I did like the beginning nights. I stayed after till like 10 or 12. I was out of there by 6 p.m. every day. I was not messing with any of those things. That was enough for me.
When you saw him, did you know what it was then?
Dark.
Did you know what it was?
I knew what it was exactly.
You said that's a Bigfoot?
Whenever it was growling, I was just, maybe it's a bear or something. Hell if I know. But whenever it did that scream or yell, I'm just like, that's not a bear. and then it started cracking the limbs, shaking the trees. I'm like, I didn't necessarily go directly to Bigfoot, but I'm like, this is something that's just not normal.
Are you still welding or?
I don't go back into the woods much more. I'm in Houston right now. I'm at my parents' place right now because the Wi-Fi at the trailer is kind of iffy. But I do still the structural welding, so I do work out of my truck still. But I mean, if it called, I mean, I probably would. I don't know if like deep woods, like where it'd take me like 10 to 15 miles just to get out and to see a paved road and something where I don't have to four-wheel drive it the entire time, maybe. But besides that, I don't really go out in the woods much anymore.
Yeah. That being said, you probably would never want to see one again, I'm guessing. Or would you want to?
Like I've heard a couple of you guys' encounters where the people up in what is it, Idaho or Ohio, where they're aggressive and they're trying to drive you out of their space and they're yelling and they're screaming, and then you go up to like Oregon or Washington and they just kind of prance along and like nothing ever happened. I mean, I'd say I'd like to have one of those encounters, but definitely not the scary,
not the aggressive one,
pant-peeing one.
I think there's some theory about location and temperament, honestly.
Yeah. Would you say it's like a species thing? Like how some of them, they might have like the coned head, and some of them have like the more like a gorilla shaped head where it's more long.
Well, we've heard a theory that there's two different types. There's a gorilla type and there's a human type. As far as the cone head, I don't know if they have both that trait, but what I do tend to see is that there's more aggression in the southern, more warmer states.
Out by you.
Yeah. And I don't know if that has something to do with the climate, the temperature, or what. I heard that they can tend to be, more aggressive down there for whatever reason. Like you said, the Pacific Northwest, they're just kind of nonchalant, like, oh, you saw me. No, you don't. But yeah, we do hear more incidences with aggressive encounters in the southern states. Southern eastern, yeah, for sure. Whatever that means. I don't know. It could be something, along this quest to figure these guys out. But what do you think these guys are, Nathan? Do you think they're purely flesh and blood? Do you think they're from another dimension? What's your concept on these things? Have they been here forever? Have they been here recently? Are they from us? What are we from them? What's your theory on this thing?
I don't really knock any theories like the interdimensional where they're here and like you're chasing after them, they just disappear, like out of air, which I mean not necessarily like I don't disprove it, but I just kind of seek that stuff openly, just kind of take it as it is. I would say, for me personally, it's a flesh and blood creature, just based off of my encounter. But like I've heard stuff about, like government, research and stuff like that, how the government tracks them, which I would say I believe, how they're all kind of closer to national parks where they can keep an eye on them.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, we believe the government knows, and they're covering this up.
Right.
Or like how you always see them around the military bases and stuff like that.
Right.
And
it does seem to be
my
a
dad,
lot of those.
he had brought up a good point. So we go to Big Thicket. We don't go for like the Bigfoot, but we go camping every once in a while. And every once in a while, there'll be like 1 to 2 park rangers that you might see, 3 at the most, like just driving by, checking on everybody. And then there's sometimes where it's like 10 to 15, they're just like patrolling off and by, not necessarily just in Big Thicket, but just like we've been to Yellowstone where it's like that. And we got to talk to some people and they're like, oh, it's never like this. We only see like 1 or 2 of them. I mean, just one at the gate, and normally just one that drives up and down.
Huh.
And I'd say that, they're just out there just to be cautious and watch them, or not necessarily watch them, but just like steer them or drive them away from areas that might campers or like people who leave out their food or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, that's an amazing story, Nathan. It's very interesting, and I'm glad you came on the show and shared that.
I can appreciate it because I used to be a welder, so
That's
I
right.
understand where you were coming from there. So.
Brian, you were, weren't you?
Yeah. So, and it can be scary when you're welding alone with your hood down because anybody can sneak up on you.
What gets me is you had that smell with the hood on, right?
Yeah. I mean, even because
you were probably lifting it up here and there too, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Whenever I was, I got that feeling, I was just like, which with welding, you kind of get that where you're just kind of seeing and you can't see your hand in front of you. I'm just like looking out into the darkness. You can kind of, because the moon was kind of out, you could kind of see stuff, but it was, I would say, like half moon or crescent moon where you could barely see anything. And I remember just seeing like the light side of the trees. I'm just like, okay. And I just go back to welding. But even with like, I worked at a steel fab shop, even with like the C25 gases, sometimes if you have that gas up high enough, you can just kind of like start to smell it. I would say that's what it was but it was more of like it just kind of moved in just slowly until it was just to that point where it was just like in my face where I was just gagging and bawling.
All right, Nathan, that was a great story, man. We appreciate you coming on the show and sharing that with us.
Yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on and tell us.
If you're ever out there and you see anything else, you be sure to get a hold of us and let us know, man, okay?
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, you take care, bud.
Texas, there's some action going on down there.
Eastern Texas, there's a lot of stuff going on there. So if you're in that area, keep your eyes open, man.
Yeah.
All right, bud. You take care. You have a good night.
All right, Nathan. Take it easy.
Okay.
Thanks. Brian, as I always say, that was an awesome show, man.
That was a great show. Kind of takes me back to my old welding days listening to him talk.
You were a welder as well.
I was.
Did you do pipe welding and stuff like that like he was?
No, I was just mostly structural welding.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I couldn't weld nothing together if you asked me to. So I have no clue what it involves really. But I do know those helmets can be dark. But for him to smell that through that helmet like that.
Yeah, so that had to be intense and close.
Yeah, and then lifting his truck up like it did and dropping it or whatever something did, I mean, I don't blame him.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
I don't blame him for getting out of there.
Me either. I don't think I would have went back.
No. Yeah, me either. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening again so much. Come join our Facebook page and our group. If you've had an encounter and want to come on the show, email us at info@cryptidcreatures.co. Or, like I said, get a hold of us on Facebook. Where else can they reach out to us?
Instagram or Twitter.
Right on. And we're on every platform, I think. We're on YouTube. Alexa, Brian, we're on Alexa too, right?
Alexa, yep.
So,
we're on just about everything. Every major platform, we're on it.
That's kind of cool. You can just say, Alexa, play Cryptid Creatures, and she'll just start playing, right?
Yep.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yes, it will. Yep, I know it. So if you got a smart speaker, go that way.
Exactly. Anyway, Brian, thanks again for hanging out with me, man.
Yeah, man. Always fun.
Another good show, brother.
Yep.
All right. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
If you've ever thought about doing your own podcast, you should use Anchor. It's free. It has editing and creation tools, and you can make money at it. Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started for free.